My name's Jeff Ulrich, DK Live. Happy to join us here on a Wednesday. And this is the normal spot where we're talking about golf. But today we thought we'd mix it up a little bit. We just got a little tournament. We just had a big week for golf anyways, the Open Championship. So we're going to be talking a little bit about NHL free agency because we got some special guests in. We got Anna. Oh, I forgot to ask you how to pronounce your last name, Anna.
Dua, Anna. Like Dua Lipa.
What's that?
Dua, like Dua Lipa.
Like Dua Lipa? Okay. So Anna Dua Lipa, Pete Jensen from the NHL Network. And there you go. I mean, I'm terrible with pronunciation, as everyone around DK Live knows. So I always ask rather than just brutalize it. So anyways, we got some guys in. We're talking NHL free agency here on a lovely Wednesday afternoon. And, it's been a busy, it was a busy little like initial period. And then, we've kind of like a dead couple days, haven't we, guys, in terms of like really big free agent signings. We still got Nazem Kadri hanging out there. I don't think Klingberg signed unless I missed that. But, quickly right off the top here, I really just want to get your thoughts. Like, Anna, let's go to you first. Like, what to you has been like the biggest, what to you was the best move that was made? And then like, what to you was like your kind of least favorite move in terms of just the overall NHL picture?
For sure. I mean, this offseason, I think we saw a lot of teams like turn around very, very quickly. And I know Pete might agree with me on this, but the team I'm looking at is the Ottawa Senators. They had some big moves so far this offseason, bringing in DeBrincat, getting Giroux, and they have a very, very solid top six to start next year. And I think they're definitely in the playoff conversation for next season. So I'm putting them as my winner so far. And for a move I was a bit disappointed in, it has to be the Maple Leafs and their goaltending situation. They lost Jack Campbell to the Oilers and they replaced him with Samsonov and Matt Murray, both who've struggled recently. And I know they're looking at Murray as someone who's had a lot of deep playoff experience, but that was when he was on a tandem with Marc-Andre Fleury, who is a phenomenal playoff goalkeeper. So I think the Leafs definitely went down a little bit in that position and the Senators went up, and now the Atlantic is an extremely competitive division.
Yeah, it'll be really interesting to see how the Leafs situation at goal turns out. I mean, I know we have a guy. I know Paul Bruno comes on our show a lot during the Sweat, our morning show, and he's pretty bullish that Matt Murray might bounce back. But I think that the Leafs, at the very least, you're probably going to see them be busy in the goaltending department at the trade deadline. I still think they have a good team. I think they'll be fine. But Pete, what's your take? What was your favorite move? And then just give me a move that you just really didn't like, or a team that you think just kind of like is out there just kind of flailing in the wind.
My favorite move's probably the two trades that the Carolina Hurricanes made. I still think Brent Burns is in great shape. I think he's one of the best scoring defensemen in the league. They got him to replace Tony DeAngelo, which I think is an upgrade. I think he's going to do wonders on a power play one with Aho and Teravainen and Svechnikov and Max Pacioretty, the other guy that they got for absolutely nothing from the Vegas Golden Knights. So I think Carolina is a team that you could look at futures wise with a lot of confidence. It's a team I've been high on here and there the past couple of the years, but this is their best foot forward coming up this year. You look at how close they came to getting to the conference final with Freddie Anderson injured. I mean, the outlook is really bright for Carolina. And then one move that I wouldn't say I'm disappointed because I'm happy for Columbus, but Johnny Gadreau had 115 points last season for the Flames. That total's almost definitely coming down going to Columbus. It was his choice. He's going to make Columbus's players around him a lot better, but for his individual fantasy appeal, it's just a little shocking that he went to Ohio, to be honest. I mean, good for him getting a big contract and everything like that, but in terms of going from a cup contender in Calgary to a team that's still a little ways away, it's just a little surprising, I would say, that Johnny Hockey went to Columbus.
Yeah, and it's kind of interesting. Obviously, Columbus still, if you're looking on the DraftKings Sportsbook, obviously, if you're watching the show, I mean, they're at plus 7,500. Like Johnny Gaudreau, despite how good he is at hockey, he really didn't move the needle at all in terms of like the expectations for the Columbus Blue Jackets next year. I still think they'll kind of be a fringe playoff team too. You mentioned the Flames. They're down to plus 2,200. I mean, I think you'll probably see that number drop over the offseason. Matthew Tkachuk is another player who could get traded. So you got the Hurricanes there at plus 1,200. In terms of just like outlook for next year too, guys, I mean, Anna, you mentioned like Ottawa, and I think I'm not sure if you said that you think they'll be a playoff team, but in terms of just like a team like Ottawa too, maybe just give me like a team that you're bullish on for next year, like a team that you could see just kind of outperforming expectations, or just it doesn't have to be one team either. It could be like one from each conference, and then maybe a team you think like people should just be looking to kind of fade next year. I mean, you give us your thoughts and just anything in general in terms of teams you're really looking to make a step forward.
Absolutely. And I did mention Ottawa, so I'm going to be bullish on another Atlantic Division team. What about the Detroit Red Wings? I think they had a pretty impressive offseason. They upped in goal. They had some great additions to their offense with Cobb, Perron, and I think that they're another team to look at, which makes, once again, as I said earlier, the Atlantic Division very, very competitive. So a team, even though their outlook is still pretty positive, that I'm kind of fading on next year has to be the Toronto Maple Leafs, just because they are worse off than they were before this offseason started. And I could see it becoming really competitive to get in those final playoff spots, especially in the Atlantic Division. So I am high on Detroit. I'm high on Ottawa. I think both of those teams should be considered as potential playoff teams.
Yeah, Detroit's really interesting. Like they have a nice top six, right? Or just like a top line, right? So, I mean, for you, do you think their goaltending is going to be good enough next year? Like Nedeljkovic, I thought was a good signing last year. He was kind of terrible last year, wasn't he? I mean, what's your biggest concern with Detroit? Is it like defense probably or goaltending? I mean,
I feel like it has to be defense. I think So had a pretty good run last season with St. Louis, and I think he's a huge addition for them. And I think him and Ned are a pretty good goalie tandem. We've seen how high Ned's ceiling can be, and I think combined with Husso, I think both of them can hold down the fort. And I don't even think Husso has hit his ceiling yet. And I think that the Red Wings offense being stronger than it ever was before will help out with the goaltending a little bit. Their biggest hole has to be on defense, but I'm not too worried about it with how strong the overall team has become. And I mean, every team has holes. I think they have the pieces to help cover those holes a little bit. And I don't hear them being talked about too much in the playoff conversation for next year, but they're absolutely a team that could sneak in.
I'm trying to remember because they signed so many people. Did they sign a defenseman?
Just recently?
Yeah, for free agency. I know they got Perron. I agree with you. Ville Husso was a great pickup. I kind of wish the others had got him. But did they grab any defensemen, Pete? Do you remember?
I mean, they didn't grab anybody of note. I would say they will have Simone Edvinsson. They're one of their top prospects. Hopefully, join in the mix as early as this season. And that new blood with Seider last year and Edvinsson this year, maybe. I mean, you're looking a lot brighter on defense. And then the Husso addition, like you said, they got Perron, they got Andrew Kopp. Andrew Kopp's going to help the defense because he's a great two-way player. And then Dominic Kubalik, who has been down the past 2 years. He's a winger, but, down the past 2 years. But when he was a rookie, he was playing with Jonathan Toews when Toews was a lot better than he is now. And he dropped 30 goals as a rookie just 3 seasons ago. So I really like those supplementary moves that Stevie Y made. And I said it on the NHL Fantasy on Ice podcast this week. The Red Wings, if it's not this year, it'll be next year. But they're going to be a force to be reckoned with once again in the next 2 years with the trajectory that Stevie Y and the Iser plan, as they call it, has that team on right now.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with it with you guys. That's a team. I mean, the 50-1 right now, as you can see on DraftKings Sportsbook. But to make the playoffs, I think next year they're still jammed in like a tough Eastern Conference, obviously. So but the Rangers were kind of like that team for a bit, and look where they got. So Red Wings really interesting team. Love the moves they made. Was there another team that you were kind of high on, Pete, or was there like a team that you're looking to fade next year, kind of just based on their moves? Or you think that's going to be a disappointment, or in
addition to what Anna said about Toronto, I think the Minnesota Wild, they're going to take a step back. They traded Cam Talbot. That's another big addition for the Senators, where their goalie tandem's a lot better now. They have Cam Talbot and Anton Forsberg. But they're going into the season with Marc-Andre Fleury as their clear number one. They have one promising rookie, but I don't know if he's ready yet. So it's probably going to be 50-plus games of Marc-Andre Fleury. Hopefully he could stay healthy. If he doesn't, or if he's just not as good as he used to be, I mean, they might have a big problem. And they also, because of those buyouts kicking in for Ryan Suter and Zach Parise from 2 years ago. They had to trade away Kevin Fiala, who was top 10 in even strength points in the whole NHL, playing on their second line. That was a luxury that they had that type of production from him. So I feel like the floor is a lot lower for the Minnesota Wild. Unfortunately, I still love Kaprizov. I love Fleury. That defense is always stout, but they're just not as strong, nearly as strong as they were last year at a couple of key positions.
Yeah, it does feel like they could be an injury away from being like next year's Vegas Golden Knights or something, right? I mean, I agree. I mean, Kaprizov is awesome. But yeah, I mean, the loss of Fiala, like Kevin Fiala, I think is really underrated. You mentioned the even strength production. He's just a good player that can get super, super hot at times. So good fantasy player too. Like that pickup by it was the Kings, right? I'm not forgetting that. Yeah,
the Kings are going to play him with Anze Kopitar, so that's a great spot for him.
And I mean, that's a team we haven't talked about either. I mean, that's a team that made the playoffs last year, right? Now they get high end scoring, which I really think they're kind of missing. So they're going to be an interesting team. They're plus 3,500 there. All right. I mean, let's open it up a little bit. I mean, anything else that like is standing out to you guys? Is there someone you're really kind of waiting on so far, or like in terms of like guys that are still out there? Like any takes on guys that are still left? Gadreau is obviously still out there, and it seems like rumblings he may just go back to Colorado now. But anything that's really catching your eye, or any guys that you're really interested in seeing where they're going? Anna, go to you first if.
I think, there are rumblings that Kadri might go back to Colorado. And honestly, Colorado was a great fit for him. You saw how well he played there. But I'm taking a look at John Klingberg as well. I think he's another big name that's still out there. And, I've heard some rumblings about a couple of different places. I know Ottawa might not be done just yet. And if they find a way to add an even stronger piece to their lineup, I think they're just boosting their odds that are already much, much higher than they were at the beginning of this postseason. So I'm taking a look at where he's going to end up.
All right. Yeah. I mean, Klingberg going to Ottawa would certainly give them a big boost. I mean, again, like that's it. They kind of just have Thomas Chabot back there and like, that's it. So Pete, anyone else just kind of on the fringes that you're kind of just interested in seeing? Any other situations? Like, I know you brought up Tkachuk, but interested maybe in what the Flames are going to end up doing. I mean, it's up to you. I mean, give us your thoughts here.
I mean, I would be really interested to see if the Flames are, forced to trade Tkachuk. That'd be really unfortunate for them. He's an RFA right now. We all know, the rumblings out there about St. Louis. I mean, St. Louis lost David Perron. That would be a huge momentum shift in the Western Conference if they somehow landed him. But there are a couple other teams involved. Again, it's tough when you lose Johnny Gadreau, who was tied for second in the league in points last year and led the league in even strength points. And Matthew Tkachuk too joined him. He was a 100-point player too. And with Tkachuk's category coverage in fantasy, he was like top 10 overall in standard leagues last year. So pretty ridiculous numbers that those guys on the top line were putting up, and to see potentially 2/3 of that unit be taken away would be really disappointing for Calgary, obviously. And then for Edmonton, I really like what they've done, solidifying what I thought was by far and away their position of weakness in goaltender. They brought in Jack Campbell. Jack Campbell, if you don't remember, went toe-to-toe with Andrei Vasilevsky in the first round this year. I thought he deserved better, not only this postseason, but last postseason against Montreal when they blew the 3-1 series lead. I didn't think that was his fault. I actually thought he was really valuable for the Leafs, and I wouldn't be surprised, with him going to a team with McDavid and Draisaitl and Evander Kane and Evan Bouchard and all this talent offensively in Edmonton. Wouldn't be surprised if a move like that put them over the top this year. They got to the Western Conference Final this year and fell flat because they didn't have a viable goaltender. Now that could change. So the futures appeal of Edmonton is sky high. They could go all the way this year.
I like the sound of that. I agree with you 100% on Jack Campbell. He had some stretches of really insanely high-end play, did deal with injuries. And he's got to obviously stay away from that. But I think that you can put some of that poor play that he experienced on injuries. So, okay. We can kind of do fantasy angle, or we can just, talk in general here. But why don't we get, before we wrap or anything like that, like let's give some hot takes for the people here. I mean, you can go fantasy angles and go like who you think the best value out there might be or the biggest surprise, or you can go like just general. Like, I mean, I'm looking at this Eastern Conference, and the Panthers, the Lightning, the Rangers all had good seasons. Toronto, but I mean, you can take it to the West too. But the West is kind of just Colorado. Who do you think is going to be like the biggest disappointment? Because I just don't see all these teams being good again next year. Like we talking about the upstart teams. Some of these teams just have to like kind of regress. So is there like, do you have a hot take about that? I mean, and if you don't, maybe just give us like a fantasy take too. I don't know. I mean, Anna, if you're ready, go ahead. But anyone you're just looking to fade next year in terms of teams, or any fantasy player you really think people are kind of sleeping on?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I promise I'm not a hater. I'm sounding like a hater right now. I am from Toronto, just to make it clear. But I have to say, like, the Toronto Maple Leafs are the team that is sticking out for me for changing the most from this past season. So obviously, there are some teams that are further along their developmental process and teams that just aren't as far along. But the biggest drastic difference, I think, for next year in the East, at least for me, has to be the Maple Leafs, because I just think that they're weak in a position that is critical in such a competitive conference, in such a competitive division. And we've seen that the Leafs are always on the brink of making it further. And like the slightest slip up is always what stops them from keeping going. And I think that they have a huge hole playing against competitive teams like the Tampa Bay Lightning, who have high shots on net every single game. If we had that same matchup happen this year, you might see a drastically different result. They might not even go to 7 games. So the Maple Leafs are a team that I'm definitely fading in the East. And in the West, I think a lot of teams have become stronger. I think the Colorado Avalanche is a very dominant organization. But as Pete mentioned, the Edmonton Oilers have really strengthened their entire team, and they went pretty far this year, and they fixed all the problems they had that stopped them from going all the way this year. So I think we might even see more competition out West. But a particular player that I'm actually very high on that maybe might be overlooked is Jake Ottinger for the Dallas Stars. I think he had one of the best individual playoff performances, even though he was only in the first round this past season. It was spectacular. I think he's a great player to look at in standard leagues, especially in keeper and dynasty leagues. And so that's a player I'm very high on.
I must have written up Jake Ottinger for daily fantasy hockey. Like on like every slate for the second half of the year. It felt like it was just, his salary was always low. The Stars were always in kind of a good spot, and he was just so good. He's just put in a ton of high end games. So I can't disagree with you there. That's a great call. Pete, what about you? Like you got to take on the Eastern Conference. I mean, again, like you can take it wherever you want, but give us a team that maybe you're not too high on, or a fantasy player you kind of think people are sleeping on.
I think you're going to see some new teams in the playoff mix from the Eastern Conference. Like, I know this past year was very predictable. Just the only surprise was the Islanders missing it. I think you could see 3 or maybe 3 of the teams that made it last year miss it this coming year. We'll see like what the state of the Bruins is. They didn't really do anything other than hire a new coach, and they have, a lot of injuries going into the new season with McAvoy and Brad Marchand, and Patrice Bergeron is injured and still unsigned. So that's a concern. And yeah, to go along with Toronto, I mean, the teams in that division, Florida, now Ottawa, Tampa, Toronto, they put up like 4 or 5 goals a night most nights. So it's going to be ugly for any of those teams that are on the fringe, night to night, including Detroit. I like their improvement, but maybe they're not quite there yet. Maybe Ottawa's a little overhyped right now. They definitely improved a lot, but it's going to be interesting to see how that shapes up. Also, the New Jersey Devils got a lot better, and they're kind of sneaky under the radar. Like Vitek Vanacek could be a workhorse goalie for them. Maybe the peripherals won't be pretty, but he's a huge upgrade compared to what they had last year. And they bring in Andre Palat from the back-to-back champion Lightning from 2 and 3 years ago. And he's coming off a brilliant postseason. So, and he's a power forward that can kind of score big goals, protect the young kids, Jack Hughes or Nico Hischier. So maybe he can kind of round out the New Jersey Devils. And then, with Columbus, I mean, they're going to be in the equation like they were last year. They were like the 10th best team in the East, I think, last year. Maybe they're 8th or 9th this year. So a couple of new teams, new guard in the Eastern Conference should be in the playoff conversation.
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to lose my job and speak ill about a Boston team, but I'm kind of with you on fading the Bruins. I think they could be in a bit of have a bit of issue next year. I don't like the coach firing. So anyways, guys, really appreciate you joining us. Could you guys just drop your Twitter handle or anything you want to plug quickly? And we're going to spend the last 10 minutes on golf, and I'll let you guys get out of here.
Sounds good. Thanks for having us. And yeah, check out nhl.com/fantasy. We've already updated our rankings. We're going to have all the sleeper lists and everything like that. Mock draft 1.0 coming up on the horizon. We had a new episode of NHL Fantasy on Ice earlier this week. Anna's going to hop on that show very soon as well. So stay tuned for that. And yeah, we just have a ton of off-season coverage coming up, projections and everything like that. So you could follow me at NHL Jensen. And thanks so much for having me on.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me too. Pete already said you can find us at NHL Fantasy on Instagram and Twitter too. We have all the stuff we do. We post it there as well. And you can follow me on Twitter at Anna Noel Dua.
Perfect. Definitely give those guys a follow. Like, I mean, make great hockey people, always posting stuff, and it's all year for these guys. So give them a follow. Really appreciate you guys coming on. Again, I appreciate hockey talk at any point in the year, and whenever we can do it on this show, I'm all about it. So yeah, I mean, but for the rest of the show, we are going to transition, fortunately or unfortunately, depending on your preference, to golf. We got the 3M Open coming up this week in Minnesota, following up a busy Open Championship where Reed Fowler's best friend, Cam Smith, sunk 500 feet a putt and 500 feet of a putt.
Jeff, every single time you guys talk hockey, I don't know why you guys don't include me in the hockey talk. As a guy, as a kid from Hawaii, I feel like I would be
grew up playing hockey in Hawaii. I mean,
I would feel like I'd be the person who knows hockey the most. The only ice that we have actually in Hawaii is shaved ice.
That's what I was going to say. The Kona ice, right?
Yeah, that's it. That's all we have. We have one ice rink in Hawaii.
I was going to say it, but I mean, I didn't want to,
no,
I don't know if it's appropriate. So
roller hockey, we can get some roller hockey talk. We can do some of that. I
mean, hey, roller hockey it's legit. It's hot out. Those roller blades, man. Trust me, they're dangerous if you don't know what you're doing. All right. Let's get to this event. This event really only needs 10 minutes to talk about anyways. We're gonna end with the last 10 minutes of some 3M Open hot takes. I'll be honest, I'm actually kind of excited for this event. Yeah, it's a fun little course. Guys can get it doesn't go crazy usually, like 30 under scoring, but there's a lot of water. Like guys make doubles, but you can also make eagles and stuff on the final hole because it's like a par 5 to finish. We saw last year, Usti almost holed out, and then Cameron Champ hit it into the woods and he recovered. So it's a fun course. Give us your best takes here. Just give us your card. Who you betting this week? I mean, honestly, this is no bare bones here. Give me your card.
So I just tweeted out who I'm betting. I just added a couple of guys at this past, I think, the last couple hours or so. But I have Nick Hardy, Michael Gligic. I always like saying that last name. Gligic. Is that how you pronounce it though? He's Canadian.
I have no idea, dude.
Okay.
I just screwed up Anna's name in the last segment, so I didn't even.
Gligs.
I know.
Like Svensson, Gadreau,
Callum Tarrant, Gadreau. Just like Tarrant. 6 guys. Davis Riley, everyone's betting now because I wrote him up. Obviously, everyone's.
And then I also there's kind of Gary Kigo. I think had a nice Sunday. He's someone that I liked quite a bit. Like when we did the season long fantasy, and he's missed every single cut. I did not think that was going to happen, but he looked like he's getting into form a little bit.
Yeah.
And Matthew Neesmith, someone that can put up a lot of birdies. Yeah. So that's kind of what I'm thinking about.
People forget Matthew Neesmith almost won. Valspar early in the year. Everyone's hot and bothered about Svensson, but Svensson and Neesmith are basically the same player.
Right.
And they both are red hot with their irons. Their putting can go ice cold or red hot.
Right.
And, Neesmith is 50-1 and Svensson is 35-1. So,
and Svensson started, I think, at 45, and he's gone down to 30. But to your point, Jeff, and this is what I think I wanted to talk about the most on this show is that this course, and I'll save next week's Wednesday show for my Cam Smith takes because I need 45 minutes.
We need Emerson here too.
I know, but I had someone comment on Twitter about my article where I said I don't think the water is going to be that big of a deal. And it's, I can see why this person said, well, what do you mean? Right? Like there's the most water balls on this course on the PGA Tour last year. The tournament directors set it up because they want birdies and basically train wrecks. And I get all of that. But I'm thinking of the sense of these are larger than average green sizes, right? And there's massive landing areas. And so, yes, it matters for the people who suck at driving, right? Who can't hit the ball straight. That matters. Like you could have 3 water hazards. And if you suck at driving, you're going to find the water hazard, right? It doesn't matter if it's 27 or it's 7, you're going to find the water hazard. So I don't think it's that big of a deal. I think on the approach shots, it's a bigger deal. And if guys are shorter hitters, then yes, they're coming in with 175 to 200, most likely in that range in their approach shots. And then it's going to matter. But I don't really like for the top guys and the guys that I want to basically bet, I don't really think the water matters. I don't think these guys look at this and say, oh, like I got to play away from the water, like, so much so like in a major tournament. If it's windy, yes. And that's a big thing. If it's windy, then sure, it can play a part. But this is a really easy course. Like it's an easy course for these guys. We'd love to see like the next rising stars come up. That's why the card looks a little bit different than it usually does. And I would argue that this course resembles closer to the Ennis Brooks, right? The Florida swing courses in that sense, right? So looking at guys like Neesmith and then even Svensson, if you want to talk about that, then I like that.
It's like an easy PGA National.
Yeah, exactly.
Like that's kind of the way I look at it. You're right. Like it's so if you're hitting your irons well, like Reed said, like the water's not really going to matter. I agree. That's pretty much actually what I wrote up too. Like the water is there, but it's really only going to come into play if you're like playing bad. And if you're playing bad, your guy's going to suck anyways. So
exactly.
That's kind of why it's just approach and putting. Like as long as you're not a disaster off the tee, you should be fine here. And if you're hitting your approach as well, the water probably won't come into play. So, it'll be into play, but like you just won't be making doubles all done.
So who are the top guys, Jeff? Are you fading? Because I'm going to tweet this out.
I'm fading Maverick McNeely. You can tweet that out.
Actually, you know what? No, this is too easy. This is too easy of a course to fade the top guys because no one wins the top. We'll save it. We'll save it for like the BMW championship, like the first leg of the FedEx Cup or like the second leg of the FedEx Cup, the Northern Trust, whichever one it is. That's
all the guys will be in live by then, man.
Oh, that's true.
Kokrak left today. No more Cokes.
Kokrak left before Liv was even announced. Are you kidding?
I don't know why this took so long. Maybe was it injured or something? I don't know.
I don't know. But like this is like, and then to what you were saying, I think this is a fun tournament because like it's you get these new guys come up, right? Yeah. Like we don't get the Tom Kims of the world maybe on featured coverage and featured groups on PGA Tour Live. We're going to get some of those guys and you're going to get to see them. People always complain. I think EPAT is one of the best follows in golf Twitter. Eric Patterson, EPAT. I think it's EPAT Golf on Twitter, so give him a follow. But what I will disagree with him is he is so particular and so against the coverage for golf. It's like you cannot win with him. It's like if you show like the main guys, then he's complaining about not showing the tertiary and the secondary guys. And if you're showing the secondary and tertiary guys, he's complaining about not showing the leaders. This is the one tournament that you might get both of that. Like I love EPAT. I think he does great work, but it's like you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. So this is a tournament that you're going to find some of those players. And then if you like some of these guys, Smotherman, Hosser, I mean, how many times have we bet these jokers throughout the year and we're following them on the PGA Tour app? Yeah. Like you're following ShotLink. Like you might get to see these guys on TV. Yeah. So that's why this tournament
get to see what they look like, get to see what Hayden Buckley looks like or something. How
many people don't know that Callum Tarrant is actually is English? Like
I know. It's
I bet most people don't know he's from England.
I mean, his name is kind of like you think he's someone, but you're right. Like if you just
most people could be someone from from SMU, right? Like I actually know Callum in Hawaii, but this tournament is a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun to watch, and I know there's some guys that we follow in the industry that are native Minnesotians that are on the course, and I was talking to some of them. They said that it's been extremely hot. It's been extremely hot everywhere. It was close to 100 degrees here in Boston. I don't know why Julian Edlow wasn't tweeting the weather and the temperature here and only in Vegas. So it was only like 10 degrees.
He just
hotter in
wanted to
Vegas.
let people know he was in Vegas. He's like,
Yeah,
wow,
soft.
guys, look, guys, I'm in Vegas.
Yeah. But he was saying that the balls don't travel. Like the drives, most of them just, bounce once or twice and then they stop. Maybe that's exaggeration a little bit, but they're not running out a ton. So 7,400 yards.
Yeah.
We've seen Cam Champ, Bryson, Wolf. These guys play well here. Johnny Vegas has played well here. I tweeted out some stats on the winning lineups for for DraftKings in the main contests for the 3M. We've seen big hitters. Finau. I think the highest roster player in all of the past 3 years was Harris English at 30%. So that's what you want to try and find, right? Is like that Johnny Vegas type of player, in my opinion, too. Yeah.
And I mean, like it's been a weird course. Like the shorter hitters have come really close here, and obviously Michael Thompson won too. But we have had like pure bombers win in 2 of the 3 years. So I don't know. I mean, it's a course where you can bash driver a lot, but the thing is, if you're bashing driver and you're not straight, like you mentioned, I mean that's where you get in trouble. So you have to have a good driver, like, of the ball. He can't just be long. He's got to be like long, like Matthew Wolff was when he was actually good at golf. Like he just smashed it in the fairway like 350 and made this course very easy for him. I just don't know. Like, I think people are on Wyndham Clark this week, and that's like one of the only players kind of in the top that I can really say, okay, like obviously other than Finau, maybe Cam Davis too, where I can say, okay, like this guy kind of fits that mold, but otherwise, I mean, maybe Gadreau. Gadreau is the other guy, obviously. But he's kind of a little bit unproven. So
but I know we only got a couple minutes left.
Yeah, we got like 1 minute.
And this is something that I've been trying to figure out is there's one golfer that, like, I wrote him up and I'm still debating whether to bet him outright. For me, it's Ryan Palmer.
Okay.
He's at plus 4,000. I really like him. I just don't know if I can pull the trigger yet on betting him outright. Who's that one golfer for you that you want to, but he's like right on the precipice that you might not bet?
It's probably Wyndham Clark and Gadreau, because they didn't make the card initially, but like I kind of like, it's just like a FOMO thing, like I don't know if I'm going to use them in my DFS lineup. I'll probably get Gadreau in a lineup. I'm not sure, but if I don't, I do think Gadreau's upside is good enough in this field to bet at 45 to 1. Like he's double the odds of Thigala. Clark, I don't know. I've just bet Wyndham Clark so many times that like if he wins here, I'm going to feel a little bit tilted. So I don't really see it.
Clark has also been someone who can start 4 over on the first 2 holes.
Yeah, I mean,
we've all been there.
The thing is, Wyndham Clark isn't a high-end ball striker. We're almost out of time here, but like he can do what Cam Champ did last year, which is gain 8 strokes putting. So I don't know. Both those guys are on the verge of probably bet 1 or 2 tonight. One or both.
Ricky Fowler, though, what a precipitous downfall for those guys. Anyway,
Ricky Fowler can.
I'm betting first round leader.
Him and Jason Day can just go to where I don't know what the equivalent of Disneyland is in Minnesota. There's probably some roller coaster park, but they can go there on Friday.
Busch Gardens, like a Busch Gardens.
The go-karts. Anyways, we're out of time. My producer's saying, wrap it up, pal. We got Madden coming up next. We got the sweat. Make sure you watch that 11 a.m. Eastern on DK Live. Tweeting it out. We'll be talking sports as always. NASCAR segment coming up Friday, probably NFL tomorrow, and we'll be tilting the 3M Open early in the day as well. So make sure you tune into that. Slate will be here tomorrow. It might even be Reed and I again. I don't know. Probably Adam Kaufman will be around to make bad jokes. But anyways, guys, thanks a lot for tuning in. We got Chicago versus Tampa Bay. Madden coming up right now.